that's okay. It's only 2 minutes. I'm probably going to go 10 minutes over, just so you know. Welcome to Maximum PhpStorm. If you haven't heard this talk before, I've given it a couple of other times. You'll be able to find it in its longer form on Drupal.tv. Just search for Maximum PhpStorm there, and you'll see a couple versions of this talk. You'll see how it's been iterating. For this talk, I've had to kind of blow up my whole strategy of how I'm going to be going through this. I'm going to build in some extra time at the end because when I've done this, there's been a lot of people who also know a lot of things about things back there. So we're going to go through things that you know how to do with your tools. So just while we're going through, cue that up in your mind. Also, you may see at the top of the slides here, there's a link that you can go if you want to submit your question textually. We'll be referencing that at different points in the presentation, mainly at the end. And like I said, I could talk about this for days. But before we get too into the weeds, let me introduce myself. My name is Chris Weber. I am a nerd at the nerdery. I'm a software engineer and PhpStorm enthusiast. You can find me on Drupal.org as Cosmic Dreams and Twitter as Chris M. Weber. I've been using PhpStorm for a long time, but I didn't start my career there. When I started as a developer, I worked a lot with Visual Studio. I taught myself how to work with .NET MVC. I used that skill to start a company with a buddy of mine, and we did .NET and Drupal for a good number of years until we decided to part ways. But every bit of skill that I ever learned about .NET, I had to learn on my own, and it was because of the wonderful support that Visual Studio provides. It's an overwhelmingly complex tool, and it was way too powerful for me when I first started. But they had great tutorials and great documentation online, and I was able to fight my way through my uncertainty and confusion to have a professional skill. And when I shifted back to Drupal work, because I was doing Drupal way before I ever touched any line of .NET, I often felt overwhelmed by the complexity. I felt powerless because all I really had at the time was a text editor, and everything I knew about how to solve problems I had to either find on Drupal.org through searches, through the API documentation, through searches, or just in my head. There's nothing that the tool could really do to help me. I had to do it myself. And so I firmly believe, and you can debate me on this if you like, but I firmly believe that tools like Visual Studio and PhpStorm, while being overly complex and can be overwhelming at times, they can do a lot to ramp up your skill as a developer from being that confused and uncertain developer that needs to know everything, and just the competent and confident developer that is able to offload some of the responsibility of knowing all the things to their tool. So that's the journey we're going to be going through today. We're going to walk through the journey of a developer and how a tool that is complex, like PhpStorm, can help you through many different stages. These are kind of the stages that I went through of becoming more comfortable as a professional developer. How to discover details and facts and figures about your code, things that can save you from the frustration or shortcut the amount of time that you take in order to work through things. We'll do a little bit of work with the digital detective work that we do on a daily basis, the work to discover facts about what's going on in your code right at this moment, and then how to adapt the tool to you, because if you have to be forced to adopt the thinking and the ways of working of a specific tool, that's never going to work for anybody. You've got to make the tool work for you. But before we dive into that, I just want to put, because I feel very strongly about this, I do not want you to take away from this talk that you have to switch from the tool that you love to using the tool that I love. If you love any of these tools, if there's a tool up here that you love that isn't up here, feel free to use that. What I'm really trying to communicate today is that these are things I found in PhpStorm, and they're found in many other different places. So if this specific technique that I'm talking about is available in your tool, or if there are there are like dark places and weird parts of your tool you have yet to explore, I encourage you to explore those and use those, because knowing your tools deeply and being competent with your tool is the main thing that will get you from to confidence. Okay, let's begin. Discovering your tool. Modern tools like PhpStorm try to index all the code that you give it, so that when you need it, they can assist you with remembering the names of objects, functions, everything about that is inside your code. So here's a few ways that PhpStorm can discover facts about your code. Modern tools, lots of tools. If you don't have a tool that has IntelliSense, consider using a different tool. I just said to use the tool that you love, but I mean, come on. If you can't have a tool that is able to tell you the things that are in your code and force you to like manually look up things, okay, let's just set the level there. It must have the ability to give you answers about your code. IntelliSense is a great first step. So that work that it does to index all of your code, this is where it pays off. Being able to like search for the name of a variable, and methods or anything that's in your code. PhpStorm in particular is quite famous for its shift search for everything everywhere function. You can search for classes and methods and functions, or even things that aren't in your code, things like preferences within your administrative preferences. You can search for that all in one place. And often, when you're searching for the name of a thing, all those search results are compounded together. So you may think you're looking for an object, but in the end, what you really wanted to find was a function. You'll get that all in one place. I thought I deleted that slide. And I thought I deleted that slide, but I did not. There are more targeted searches you can do. If you want to search for the name of a specific file or a class or a method, there are specific keyboard shortcuts you can do. And are there any Windows people in the room? This is for you. Lots of these presentations forget to include the Windows shortcuts. These shortcuts are valid for both Windows and Linux. And so I will endeavor to include those. So yeah, if you want to search for a specific thing, you can do that. And here is where my talk branches. So I like to fly by the seat of my pants. How about today we do something completely different? What I'm suggesting that we should do in the next couple minutes is let's go through a couple of things. If you've got specific things you want to show while I'm going through this demo, let me add that in. But what we're going to do here is we're going to audit a module that we grabbed just off of Drupal.org. We're going to check it for code formatting violations, and we're going to fix anything we find, and we're going to make an issue back to the module and contribute that code live. All right. So this worked before I split screens. So the biggest thing we have to make sure here is that you can see this text. Can you see this text before I really get going? Is it too big? Is it too small? Thumbs up? Okay. All right. Good. Let me minimize that for now, if I can. There's the mouse. Okay. So one of my favorite things to do these days is to check modules for code formatting violations. It's a great way to contribute back work, and it's something that people who work on modules absolutely hate to do. They're just trying to fix things and make new stuff. They don't want to make sure that everything's kosher. So I go to Twitter, and I go to a Twitter user called Drupal 8 Modules, and I just search for that, and I grab one, and I fix it. So that's why I did not minimize this tab. So here's Drupal 8 Modules today, and I was just scanning through it, and then I found I guess it updated a little bit. Oh, focal point. I like focal point. That's a great little module. Let's do that one. So we navigate to that module, and what we want to do is, in order to, if we find something and if we're going to fix it, we want to contribute it back. So we can't just, download the module. What we really want to do is we want to get the source code. So we go on over, to version control. Version control automatically selects the Drupal 7 one. We want the Drupal 8 one. And so we do that. And then we grab this line. This is hella hard, dudes. Come on, do it. There we go. Copy that. All right. PhpStorm. Go to the command line. Is the mouse there? There's the mouse. Where's the mouse? There's the mouse? There's the mouse. All right. Go to the command line. Here I am. All right. Oh, I created a tab. There we go. So here I am in my open source directory where I put all the things that I'm grabbing that I'm working on in open source. And I'm just going to paste that command. Let's go get it. Boom, there it is. And then we'll go up to PhpStorm and we'll open that. Here we go. All right, so here I am. And there should be an open source directory. There it is. There we go. And then over here should be a fixed focal point. There it is. Found it. Wow. Okay. Super interesting, folks. All right, so since we opened a Drupal 8 module, we see that it automatically engaged the Drupal integration. We'll turn that on, and then we'll have to enable it. We'll have to tell it that it's a Drupal 8 module. And then it's just a module. It's not all of Drupal, so we have to tell it where the rest of Drupal is. Good news. I've got that already. So there's Drupal 8.5. I know I should update it. I think it's connected to Composer, so maybe it is up to date. Who knows? All right, so I told it that, but there's more that I need to do. It told me that it can help me some more. It can make sure that the Drupal code formatting settings are set. So I'm going to set that. All right. So by this time, hopefully, it's almost done scanning. Cool. So it is. All right. So here's the trick that no one will tell you. We want to scan this for code formatting violations. But the best way to do that with modern Drupal projects is to use PHP Code Sniffer. So you can search your preferences for Code Sniffer, and then you'll be able to find the PHP Code Sniffer integration here. And you just want to turn that on. But you want to give a little bit extra help, so you'll turn on show the specific sniff that violates. And you want to trick it into saving the configuration here. So you'll
Was the plugin already installed in PHP? You just enabled it?
Yeah, these are default plugins. Yep. And then when you click OK, you'll be able to save a weird configuration file here. So now when you look inside the secret folder that it creates called the idea folder, there's a folder in there called inspector profiles. So what you want to do is you want to edit that one file that's in there and just tell it to use both the Drupal and the Drupal practice code formatting standards. Like that. That's not escape. There's escape. Okay. Refresh your settings. And now when you access the preferences, it should say Drupal and Drupal practice. All right. Yes. Okay. Now we're good to go. All we have to do is run Code Sniffer on everything and have it tell us what we need to do. which is something I have to do once I'm out of the text, the console. There we go. We're going to run Code Sniffer. We're going to run it on everything. And looks like it's going to include JavaScript and CSS files. I guess that's fine. I'll just ignore those. So it's going to run the analyzer, and it's going to run on a whole bunch of things. And
what was the keyboard shortcut for that?
the keyboard shortcut for running any individual code inspection on the screen, which it should have showed you on the screen, I guess it's showing on my screen, is Shift, Command, Option, I. At the end, there'll be a cheat sheet of all the keyboard shortcuts that we're using today. Okay, so let's fix something. All right, well, there's a test. There's a widget. Let's fix the widget. Numerical strings, only strings, literals should be passed. That sounds fun. There's a lot of those. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Expected new line. That's an easy one. Okay, so that one says that there was one new line found.
I expected one, I didn't find one.
Yeah. I'm really regretting not mirroring the screen. Oh, Drupal calls should be avoided. We're not going to be fixing that one. It's another new line. It opened on my screen.
But does weak warning mean, like, I don't know, it's just not a big deal, or?
Yeah, well, we intentionally told it that everything that it finds doing the code sniffer should be classified as a weak warning. So we told it to do that. I thought this was going to be, I thought I found a whole bunch of stuff. That was earlier today. I hope they didn't fix everything.
They only fix the things you edit.
Yeah, thanks guys. Well, all right, for a lack of better time, let's just say that we were able to fix this by breaking up this specific line. All right, so we've got a change here. So what I did was I basically highlighted the line, and then I pressed Option Command L to format the line based upon the rules that it knows now about Drupal's code standards. And because PhpStorm has Git integration, I'm able to open up Git and see the file that I've modified. And then I'm able to press Command D on the changed file in order to see a window that popped up for me on my screen. And it looks like it didn't actually change the thing we intended to change, but instead like reformatted the order in which things happen. But for the sake of time, let's just go through the process of, like, if we had properly fixed that, how would we convert that into a patch that we could submit? In order to do that, I would suggest the best thing to do would be to go back to the command line, which is in here in the terminal, and then you can do a Git Diff in order to see that change. And then what we're going to do is we're going to export this diff into a file so we can submit it. And probably the best thing to do in order to get that accomplished is to go on over to the issue and make sure that we can see where the mouse is and make sure that we actually create an issue for this. Create a new issue. Code formatting demo. We We fixed some code formatting during MidCamp. The reason why I create the issue ahead of time is so that I can get an issue number. I'm definitely not seeing that. Oh, there it is. 8. That should be 8.x. I don't know what I just clicked on. There we go. Save that. And grab that number. So that over in PhpStorm, when we export this GIF, this diff, we can use the number so that the file that you upload is referencing the issue that you're creating. And now that we've got the file, you just upload it to the issue.
What was the _2 for?
That's another thing I do. I try to make sure that every patch I upload refers to the comment within the issue that I'm doing it. So since I know that it's going to create comment 1 and just saying that, hey, I created this issue, I knew that comment 2 was going to be the issue that I'm going to be uploading it to. Then I definitely can't see that, but you would find the file and you would upload it. Wait, I can see. Oh, but see, I'm still kind of new to Macs. And then open source. Focal point. And there it should be. There it is. There you go. So that's the process. All right, back to the show. All right, cool. Time and frustration savers. We just looked a little bit about cleaning up code. There are a couple of commands that I like to use. There's the refap format code function. You can do Shift-L and Shift-Command-L in order to format code based upon the default settings or settings that you apply for just that particular reformatting. A little video there, I don't think I've got time to show it. If you are working with a bit of code, you need to update the documentation block above the code. You can press Option, Enter, and then it will automatically generate a doc block for the bit of code that you're working on. That's one I've learned recently.
Even if the doc block already exists?
Yes.
Yeah. Like if you wanted to update that block, if like you've added a new parameter to your function and you want to make sure that it just stubs out what it can about that function, you're going to add details like what data type that new parameter is. But yeah, it works. Another kind of cool thing that always is overlooked that Drupal knows a lot about PhpStorm knows a lot about the Drupal API. If you've highlighted a function, you want to search that function in the Drupal API, you can do that.
Does it also search PHP?
Say again?
Does it also search PHP functions? From the
yeah. Yeah, that's what you're saying. Yeah, that works too. And another thing I like to do, which we just turned on, which I just showed you how to turn on for the project, is to just leave the PHP code sniffer scanning. PhpStorm has tons of other inspections too. Just keep them on so that it passively scans your code, and it catches like stupid mistakes like missing a comma or tabbing something wrong. You're able to see both in the code that you're currently looking at the specific violation by the little squiggly line that shows underneath, and you're also able to see like everything that it thinks that could possibly be wrong in your document by what's showing up on the right bowling lane, whatever it's called. The file health check. This is what I did earlier when I just wanted to run a specific inspection. You are also able to run this to run all inspections on the current file that you're working on. This is a good way of, like, while you're working through a thing, you're able to see, hey, did I screw something up in the process? Or has this particular file been so out of compliance with coding standards that we need to have a conversation? You're able to do this. You're able to get a health check on a specific file. Scratch pads. I once worked with a developer that would not use any tool without a scratch pad. A scratch pad is a temporary file that is not saved on your machine, but it has full access to everything your ID knows and can do. So it's just this little place you could throw stuff you just copied from somewhere and reformat it there before you want to put it in, because maybe you have had a history of, like, pasting things from the web and not reformatting things, and people have told you not to do that. Just saying. Oh, this might be a good opportunity to play a little video. Okay. So here, I wanted to create a little module. And I believe when I did this demo, I didn't realize that I had misnamed this file. It needs to be the same name as the folder that I just made it. Oh, no, this is where I'm demoing the Drupal integration. The Drupal integration not only knows about how to access the API, but it knows about every hook that is in existence. So if you create a module file, you can just start typing the name of the hook you want. Like there I typed alter, here I'm typing preprocess. It automatically knows to put the name of the module ahead in the hook spot of the hook, and then to put the doc block in place that you're supposed to be put so that you're still in compliance with code standards. Thank you. We've got 5 minutes. I've got more slides. I don't really care about them. I care about what you want to know. Because I could ramble, but I don't want to play a GIF over and over again. I must have clicked it. That's why. So let's jump in. What do you want to know about? Or is there anything you want to share with the group about how you use PhpStorm? We'll go here first.
Okay, so I noticed you're using the terminal that PhpStorm has.
Yes.
And the only reason I'm not doing that, and it's maybe just a setting I'm not aware of, but I tried it, but then it didn't have the autocomplete.
Yes.
You have that though, right?
That's correct.
How do you do that?
Well, I make sure the terminal is using the same terminal that I use when I use terminal.
Oh, okay.
I've got a Mac. This is different on Windows. Windows people, right? So on Windows, you have to like tell it specifically what terminal you need to use and what argument that launches it the appropriate way. It's a mad science. On Windows, on Mac, it's really easy because you just tell it, you just figure out what command is launching terminal, and you teach terminal in PhpStorm how to do the same thing. Let's jump in.
Yeah, I gotta try this.
So in PhpStorm, here we are. At any point when you're in PhpStorm, you can press Command, comma in order to get into the preferences, and then you can just start typing. So terminal. And this used to work. Terminal. Terminal. That's not. Are we only seeing?
Maybe down on the left under tools, is that?
Yeah. This used to be a thing that was.
First column, she said.
Oh, I did. See, I can't really see well. Oh, and it typed it there too. Hey, terminal. Hi, terminal. And so the current command, the current start directory that it uses there, the current environmental is used there, the current shell path in order to launch your terminal is there. If you don't like bash, you like something else, you can tell it which one you want to use. And then, yeah, other kind of preferences. They recently added, within this year, they added the ability for the terminal inside PhpStorm to remember how many tabs you had opened and what you named them. So if you are antsy about that, you got that too.
This might be a little more advanced, but is it possible to associate like a Lando container or Lando whatever with your project? So like it'll spin it up when you open your project and then spin it down and close it?
So maybe not the Rube Goldberg you just described. But PhpStorm does have Docker compatibility, and I've used it in the past. It works really good. So maybe because I've never used Lando myself. Maybe the way you use Lando is to launch everything via the command line. And maybe what you want is just some kind of way to kick that off real quick. But maybe you launch the specific Docker instances individually, or maybe you like have some kind of bootstrapping instance. And so the Docker integration in PhpStorm would be good for the second option, and the command line, the terminal that's in PhpStorm, would be good for the first item. Anybody else?
Can I ask a second?
Yeah.
Okay, this is kind of tangential. It's more maybe a Mac operating system question, but you know how like when you open like a PHP file, like a PHP extension, just like from your, I don't know, from an email attachment, let's just say, and then your Mac is like, oh, what program do you want to open this in? And
Yeah.
I always have to say PhpStorm, and I always say remember this, and it never does.
Well, when you first install PhpStorm, or when you install an update, you're able to declare that you want to install the command line level launcher, PStorm. And so you could, from a terminal, type PStorm and then the name of the file, and then PhpStorm would install with that file open. But that's not a problem I ever encounter, because every time I'm working on a thing, it's like I downloaded the entire Git repository, and as soon as I opened that Git repository in PhpStorm, it knows like where I left off, what tabs I had open, you know, did I have the terminal open or not? Did I move things around the screen? I'm sorry, I really wanted to show that, like how to make PhpStorm be the way that you like to work. Maybe I could just tangent into that, as I want to do. So here in the preferences, you can just hit escape and then it's out. But every one of these tabs, like the version control tab, we're still in focal point, right? So I'm able to see like the entire Git log, and it's this really long list. So maybe I don't want it like right underneath there. Maybe I want it on the right. And so what I should be able to do is, this is a gear, right? Yeah. And then I'm able to say move to the right, move to, I can't, where's right bottom? Boom. There. Now it's on the right. So I can see this big long list. And sure, it's smushed and everything. But the point is, every one of these panels, every one of these tabs can be moved around to where you want it to be. And as soon as you close PhpStorm, it will remember where you put them. There used to be a bug a couple years ago where I forgot. But they fixed it, so they'll remember everything.
Are the preferences project specific? So if you open up a different project, will it?
Yeah. There are project-specific settings. Recently, they added an ability to make those specific configuration files able to be committed to a code repository. So if there are some things you want to share among developers, you can do that. But for every project of mine is completely different. Well, not completely different. I do like to have a couple things at the bottom. But as you can see here, Docker right there. Just open that guy up and watch the instances. Any other questions? Any other tidbits that you know about PhpStorm you'd like to share with the group?
Sometimes I've opened up a PHP file and it doesn't know that it's a Drupal.
Yeah.
Where do you?
Well, if it's just a PHP file, it really has no context to know that this is a Drupal PHP file.
How do I say?
But if you were to open a thing that looked like a Drupal module, there's a good chance that it will recognize that it's a Drupal module and then ask you if you want to turn on the Drupal extension.
But if it doesn't ask you, how do you turn it on?
So you can always go to the preferences and manually turn the Drupal extension on. So you just go to preferences and then you just start typing Drupal. And then boom, you'll be able to go to this framework section. They tuck it away in there now. And you're able to check enable Drupal integration. You're able to tell it what version of Drupal, everything that we just did.
My favorite thing to do with PhpStorm is like to, do diffs between like my version and like a certain branch, and then maybe bring over a change from a branch, or like I like doing that stuff. That's fun.
Well, that's great.
Yeah.
I also like that, but I know how to use Git from the command line. I just desperately don't want to, especially when it comes to things that are super annoying like rebases. And one of the things that is so great about PhpStorm is that they have a three-way merge. You're able to go through an entire list of everything that is conflicting in a rebase, and you're able to say, well, I don't care about that, but I do care about this, and I'm going to do. You're able to have great confidence that you're not further blowing things up. Rebases can be scary sometimes. Yeah. But also the Git history is really great because you get a view of all the branches that is in operation. Oh, I guess that's not it anymore. We're able to see, take the whole screen, all the branches that are related. And then at any point in time, you're able to see the difference between that moment in time and your current code. That whenever something goes wrong, those are the main skills to apply. Did anyone notice that there's also really advanced filters? So if you wanted to find out everything that you committed to the repository, you can search for yourself. If you think someone has specifically messed something up, you can search specifically for them. You can search for a specific time frame if something blew up recently. So these are the kind of detective skills I would have talked about that we could have gotten into. I should have had faith that we would have gotten there. Burton, any PhpStorm questions you got? Okay. Anybody got anything? One of my new favorite. Oh, you got a thing.
I don't have a thing. Do you have a link to your slides with the shortcuts and things?
Yes. But probably the best way to do that is to find one of my previous talks on Drupal.tv.
Okay.
Yeah. About every slide I had also had keyboard shortcuts for Mac and Windows. Spent hours on it, and I blew it all up towards there. One of my favorite things. One of my favorite things that I've recently learned about in PhpStorm is that they've added the ability to debug Twit templates. So if you're working on a Drupal 8 project, the standard mode of operation for most Drupal projects is to turn all the twig caching off and to get all the twig debug messaging on the screen. I would suggest that you could still continue to have all the debug messaging on the screen, that wonderful, informative HTML code comments that tell you exactly what's rendering when you see a thing. But go ahead and be brave and turn that twig cache back on. Because if you can jump into the preferences, you can now go and search for twig. And you're able to tell it that you want to set the cache path. And that cache path will most likely be in your site's default files PHP folder. That's where everything that Drupal is caching PHP wise. So there'll be a twig folder that's in there, and you just put that here. And then after that, you can put a breakpoint in any twig file. They say. It's not working quite right yet. I've had to manually compile the twig templates in order for templates to show up at all, because apparently the way that I set up projects, I have fundamentally broken the ability for twig to be cached. So I've had to manually tell the site to create those via Drush. But once you do that, and you set that there, you're able to put a breakpoint into twig, and you're able to navigate to it. You get a lot of the same information you would get through other means. Like I don't know if anyone's heard the module twig tweak. That's a good, or use Kint to, okay, I know.
And you only have to prove it till 5 minutes.
Okay, fine. Oh. Well, thank you all for going on this journey with me. I hope you find my other talks at Drupal.tv. If you have any feedback you want to give me about this talk and how I can make it better, please come to tell me directly. I love feedback. Or you can tweet me at Chris Sam Weber. Apparently people have been sharing these links, but nobody gave one to me. So I don't know how you can give other feedback other than send it to me.
Yeah, if you go to the
On your session page, on the...
I still didn't see it there. I looked.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
Thank you.
the feedback section doesn't show up until your talk is on, so it should be there now.
Oh.